Being a landlord in Ontario is very tricky, right? Like I always tell people, well, in my life or whatever, if you choose to become a landlord, look up the rules and rights on the Landlord and Tenant Board before you go into any sort of arrangements. About maybe a year ago, one of my cousins called me and they're like, their friend just bought a property and they want to rent out the basement apartment. And she wanted to take a security deposit for the tenant. So first and last plus security. I'm like, that's not allowed. You can't take security deposit. You can take first and last, which technically only last month's rent is required as a deposit, to hold the unit. And then when you move in, you pay your first month or whatever. But usually people just give first and last or whatever. That's not like a major issue. And when I told my cousin that, my cousin went back and told her, she's like, oh, I'm still going to do it. It's my house. It's my property. And I'm like, all right. It's her house. It's her property. Let her do what she wants to do. Since that time, she's had 2 turnovers of tenants. So she rented one and then the other tenant decided to move out for whatever reason. I don't know if she had given back the security deposit or not, or if there was, I don't know. But then the second person moved in, she did the same thing. Guess what's happening now? They're suing her for that security deposit to be returned to them. Plus, she's going to have to pay interest. It's still before the Landlord and Tenant Board right now, but that's what's going to happen. She's going to have to pay them back that money plus interest on top of it. All because it's her house. Technically, when you rent that space to somebody, that's their space. That is their space. It's no longer yours. Well, technically, in a sense, yes, it's you own the property or whatever, but you rent the space to someone while they're in there. That's their unit. They're protected under laws, which 90% of the time will be in the tenant's favor. And that's what you guys need to understand. If you're renting somewhere, especially if you're a private landlord, a small landlord, when you're renting to tenants, the rights majority of the time will always be on the tenant's side. Remember that. There was a case in 2017 from Brampton where a landlord had to pay, I think it was $12,000-$15,000 to a couple. I'll look it up and post it on here. It was a Muslim couple. They were renting the basement apartment and they had agreed to end the tenancy. All they were asking for, which by law, the landlord had to give them 24 hours notice before he brought anybody in to view the space. But because they're Muslim, they had to pray 5 times a day at certain times. I don't know what the times were or whatever. One day he went into the unit to show the unit to prospective tenants, and he was wearing shoes. He was wearing shoes and into the prayer room, and they asked him to take the shoes off. And initially he because when I was reading the article, he was trying to say, oh, they're trying to impose their views on me kind of thing or whatever. So when they asked, and they had him on video because they've already had issues with him or whatever. So they decided to record the issues that were going on. On the video, he was caught like trying to argue with them with not taking off the shoes. But then because the prospective tenant was there, he didn't want to like cause a scene. So eventually he had taken it off or whatever. But he had already worn it into the room. And this was at the Human Rights Tribunal. And he ended up having to pay, I think, between $12,000 and $15,000. If you guys want to be like, I plan to be a landlord when, well, I say that. I don't know if I actually want to be a landlord. Because I'm the type of person, if you're not paying your rent, I'll be the type to pack your shit up and throw you out. Even though I know I'll have to pay eventually. But the way how I'm matching it in my head, it will be less than the money that I'm losing with you staying in the house, using up my utilities, and not paying the rent.
To provide some context, these are the balances of some of our tenants right now where I work. One person alone owes $38,000 plus. I'm not breaking privacy. There's no identifying information.
So I probably won't be a landlord. I probably won't be a landlord because I already know how my head is set up. I already know. But back to point. If you're planning to be a landlord, look up the rules and the rights. Because you buck up on the wrong person, you will be screwed. That's a given fact.
Essentially, we argued the position for John to have a judicial review on the decision from the Human Rights Tribunal, and after about 2.5 hours of submissions and such, the justices decided to reserve a decision, which they're going to be providing a written decision and dismissing the application. As for reasoning, we don't know at the moment, but eventually that will be provided to us and we can have a better recap of that.
In a nutshell, I'm not surprised because I have seen so many other cases that went this way, that are not supposed to go this way. Mine is not the first one, and I believe it's not going to be the last one. To the best of my knowledge, it's just a barrage of events that get into each other, that transcend into a lot of issue for me, and now this transcends to every other person.
Not Muslim or Jewish or Christian, just religious aspect. It's overarching, but it means that the landlords need to be aware and be advised of a person's practice. And what put the gray into this is that even without a clear, definite notice, there still needs to be that duty to accommodate a person's religious and charter rights.
It's not going to be the last one. It's going to happen to other people because of the base army because of the judiciary system in this country.
So as you guys can see, he did appeal the verdict, and instead of paying $12,000, he ended up having to pay $17,000. He alleges that it was just indoor shoes he was wearing. It wasn't outdoor shoes. Regardless, if you are planning to become a landlord, or even if you are already a landlord, read up on the rights and responsibilities and protect yourself. Tenants as well, look up the Landlord and Tenant Board, read up on your rights and responsibilities, and just educate yourself.